Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to now the sixth episode of the Real Time Retrospective podcast. And as I mentioned before, we are looking at the very first, yes, the very first video game award show. It was called Cybermania 94, and as it said, it took place in 1994, and it was presented on the TBS Superstation way back when. Now, obviously, of course, I don't have time to watch the upcoming Video Game Award show, but this is a good tie-in, and plus, when you think about it, from this to where we are now, we've grown up. Growing pains are a big thing. So I took some notes. Want to tell you things. Plus, also, I have a link down below, very detailed review that I found online, and also the Entertainment Weekly review from when it premiered. Um, didn't get favorable reviews at all. It just was not well liked, well received, well loved. Even the gaming community at the time thought, I mean, it was a good thing for the industry that we had an award show, but gamers were just like, eh, what? Eh. And yeah, that's how it was. And after this was over, there was no video game award show till Spike started doing it again. The only time you saw any award show or awards given out was either in the magazines or the odd video game show that was on like Saturday mornings and stuff, and they would do their annual, year-end awards like Game Pro TV. Up until that, till Spike came around and said, let's do our own, which had growing pains as well. And yes, I will talk about whatever show is available, or I may just look at the information. And bear with me, I'm fighting an odd cold. I had one hell of a headache yesterday, but I'm doing much better. So I'm getting through doing this. So let's begin. So it starts with a radical hype promo for the show, which is followed by the TBS Superstation, which tell you that it's a TBS original. And this is an original, folks. It is. And then the intro music plays, and then we get a short clip of CGI animated short that was part of what's called the Gate to the Mind's Eye, which is part of a series of CGI shorts used to showcase the ability of and technology of CGI and what it can do. Actually, the company that made it, Miramar, yeah, Miramar, they were like basically where the animators of Pixar started. So they went from there. Um, and I remember seeing a lot of their shorts when I was a kid on YTV. Whenever they would play Reboot and Transformers, they didn't have any advertisers, playing advertises late at night because the kid's going to go to this toy store at night. No, parents aren't going to drive. So they would show these CGI shorts. And I would find out years later, just one time I had in my head, I remember the segment called Short Circuits. When they would use shorts from like Beyond the Mind's Eye and Gateway to the Mind's Eye, I believe. No, they didn't use this one, but there were two of them, and there were two others that followed that I found out years later, and I have saved in a playlist somewhere. Perhaps I will watch these in the near future and talk about them more. But once I saw those, I was like, oh, I know what those are. So yeah. So then after that, we then cut back to live footage of the award show, and then we are introduced to our hosts. Drumroll, please. We're introduced to our hosts Leslie Nielsen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who are live from the Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, and the set's got a dino theme going on. But yeah, how's that for pairing? We got Leslie Nielsen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Actually, there was a short video College Humor did for their short-lived show called Bleep Bloop. They reviewed it in parts, and they said when you first see them together, it's like, oh, it's the old year welcoming the new year. It's just an odd pairing, really. And I mean, Leslie Nielsen is hilarious. Jonathan Taylor Thomas was popular, and this was the time when Lion King came out. But in hindsight, very odd pairing. Very odd pairing. Really odd pairing. So then, this is followed by a skit featuring the then First Lady Hillary Clinton, who's played by an actress, by the way. It's not the real Hillary Clinton. She gets a computer blown up in her face, and then Nielsen makes a joke about hoping that she has health insurance. Gotta start with a bang, I guess. Our hosts tell us what we're in for, and then we get a video package, which is part of a feature throughout the award show, which is called Cyber Stories. And this first one features a 90s guy. We'll just say that. He's talking about technology evolution. It's not bad when you watch it, but when you look back, yeah, it's pretty dated. Pretty dated. There's a few of these videos are like that. But then the first award is handed out. And it's Best Action Adventure, and it's presented by Matthew Perry and Hilary Swank. Interesting who they got to give out awards here. So the nominees are, we got Doom. I would argue it should be in the shooter category, but this is their choice. Mega Race. It's more of a racing game, but okay. Return to Zork. Sure. Jump Raven. Critical Path. Super Street Fighter 2. I don't know how that is an action adventure. That's fighting. I get there's action, there's adventure, but it's a fighter. Tomcat Alley and Super Metroid, which is mispronounced by the voiceover actor for the nominees as Super Metroid. And guess what? If the voice sounds familiar, it is. The voice actor who talks about all the nominees throughout the show is William Shatner. I'm not going to hold anything against William Shatner, but I wish he got Super Metroid right. Before I tell you who won, again, Doom shouldn't be in there. Mega Race sounds odd. Return to Zork is okay. Jump Raven, Critical Path, and Tomcat Alley and Super Metroid work. Even though some the ones I mentioned before, Super Metroid, are kind of like FMV, pick your own adventure games, but still, they were popular at the time. So yeah, but it just seems like an odd, and it almost seems like they threw darts at the board and said, I think that one fits in that nomination, so we'll just put it there. But anyway, in the end of the day, Doom wins. So, good choice. Doom deserves it. Even though it's a very cluttered, odd nomination. But again, growing pains. We're learning from this. So, we've come a long way. Then what do we get? Oh, then we get a live video at Las Vegas Arcade, which is hosted by comedian Sean Alex Thompson. He stalls a bit, waiting for his cue. Like, it's obviously it's obvious. He's just sitting there, and all of a sudden, he knows. He goes, "We're here." Like he giggles. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm waiting for my cue." But he makes some corny jokes. Some kid, like for example, one kid tells him, what he says, these are cheat codes you're using? Yeah, he goes, yeah. Oh, this. They take it very seriously here. I'll take lucky in the fourth. Uh, we try, don't we? Uh, let's see. Then they advertise. Then we cut to an advertisement for the number you can call to vote for Game of the Year. And a recorded earlier notice does appear on screen. So this is obviously the rebroadcasted version of the original show, which is fine. It's, I'm sure, the same advertisers, which, by the way, commercials and all, I'm going to talk about. I'm pretty sure these advertisers were also showing around the same time as the whole award show was on originally. So we cut to our first ad break. And this is interesting because this tells us who was willing to put up the money on TBS and say, we want to sell our product, we want to catch as many eyes as possible. I mean, once it once it got to Spike, it was just any ad was glorified, either a video game ad or just an ad for the station. Now, if the game award show, it's on YouTube. It's just the focus is games. It's separated from everything else. It's not answering to any major advertisers. Perhaps they have sponsors, but they're not answering to every advertiser who wants to get their product out, right? But this is interesting. This tells you at the time who was willing to put up their money to put out advertising to get people who may be watching this, who are young or old, to buy their products. So, their first ad is an IBM ad. That fits. You know, you want the best personal computer? Buy an IBM computer. Whitney Houston's HBO South African concert. That was an important concert back then. If I can find it, I may talk about it. I've talked about concerts before. So, what else? Soft and dry clear gel women's underarm deodorant. I think they just threw in the hat and said, "We'll do it." We get Little Caesars, only this time. You don't see Little Caesars anymore after this. And the same goes for Toyota. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to know that some of these one company fits, the rest kind of. I mean, if you're hungry and you're watching the show, you'd think about getting a pizza, and they were promoting a $2 deal at the time, which is a running theme with all the food commercials that you'll kind of see here. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. So then we cut back to the award show. I almost knocked my head off. Leslie Nielsen does a public service announcement on video game ratings as a guy jumps around in a balloon, and then Leslie Nielsen pops it. So then we then get our second Cyber Story segment, and it's a radical, totally 90s look at video game evolution. And I liked it. Actually, for a while after I watched the show, someone had cut up separate clips from the show, and this was one of them. I just liked the song playing in the background. It would just give me motivation to get through the day. And I thought it was pretty cool. It was a highlight for me. They were then told about how to use the Prodigy Network to interact in a chat room with people involved in the show by Jeff Livowitz. I guess he's the creator of the Prodigy Network. Again, I was trying. A lot of times when the audio, because it's so old, you're like, He's what? So, yeah. But this is in the last you see of good old Jeff Leibowitz. You'll see him a lot. Excuse me, he's a writer actually for a computer magazine that I remember them saying. Yeah, you won't see him. So then, best CD game is up. Yes, best CD game. It's presented by Lark Voorhees, who is from Saved by the Bell. So let me explain something. The PlayStation wasn't out yet, but there was this whole thing with PCs games, and as well as with Sega, especially, and the Panasonic 3DO and the CDI. It was all about either full motion video or cartoon or whatever. But CDs were the big thing. The big thing that people wanted was either real actors or famous names doing voices. That was a trend back then. And trust me, I am going to talk in length about FMV games one day. There are guilty pleasures. I'm not kidding, but there are quite a few duds. So, best CD game. So the nominees are Myst. Yes, that's deserving in there. Seventh Guest. Mm-hmm. Mega Race. Yeah, Dart. I think they threw a dart. Return to Zork. Not a bad idea. Escape from Cyber City. I think they just threw that in there. Like, there's no consistency to how many are in each category. Like, there's an upcoming category. I think it's sports has more coming in, and then there's one before it that has like a short list of nominees. So there was never a set number of nominees. It was just, we'll just throw darts. But Seventh Guest wins, and Seventh Guest is deserving. Seventh Guest is a very, it's a cult classic PC game. My cousin actually has the sequel, had the sequel, the 11th Hour, and yeah, my mind was warped when I played that. Let me tell you. So then we get our backstage statements with our good old pal Jeff Leibowitz, and he's presenting this battle. They use the game SimCity, and I imagine it's SimCity Enhanced, which is up for an award later in the evening. And it's between the mayor of California and the world's smartest kid. And the whole catch here is that if the world's smartest kid wins, he gets to run the state of California for a day. The mayor wins, the kid has to be required to give the mayor his services for the whole day. But we get, hey, it is what it is. It seems like the kid actually has a great comedic timing. I will give that kid that. Yeah. So now, after that, we go to another ad break. Now we get the Cybermania game prizes promo, because at the time when you're watching show, they have game prizes, and if you get these prizes, you can win these. So call in, and yeah, this is how it was in the 90s, folks. And then we get Fuji video photo film. Trusted brand. Interesting. Casio G-Shock watch. And they also cut in saying you get a $5 rebate when you purchase that and Speed on VHS. Boy, I should have got that $5 rebate, shouldn't I? We get Pitfall the Mayan Adventure for Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, which is the first video game commercial we get. You would think at the top of the hour when the first ad break is done, we get a video game ad, but we didn't. So this is the first one we get. We get a thing for Steel Tech, which was those cars that you would put together with screws and steel, right? We then get another one for Fisher Price, this toy car that goes around, and a promo for TBS Thursday Night Basketball. Back when Thursday nights, it was basketball or nothing. For TBS, that is. And so, after all that, cut back to the award show. Leslie Nielsen's car alarm goes off, which leads to a pretty funny pre-taped Universal Studios skit in the style of Naked Gun. And I chuckled because I enjoyed this. It was hilarious. I couldn't. I purposely sometimes I go to in if I ever feel bad and I need a good laugh, I will go to the awards show. It's up on YouTube, and I'll watch this segment because it just makes me laugh. So then as Leslie Nielsen works his way back, Jonathan Taylor Thomas gives us a Mortal Kombat 2 tip for the SNES. So write that down. Then we get our third Cyber Story segment, and they talk about CGI. It's pretty interesting. It is from where we came to where we are now. It's pretty interesting. I will say that. Now we then get Best Portable Game Award, which is presented by Sarah Chalk and Tanya Kaiser. Tanya Kaiser is an actress who's up for an award later. And Sarah Chalk, I can't remember where she's from. They did say, but it just totally went over my head. So, Sarah Chalk, ladies and gentlemen. But the nominees are, this is Best Portable Game. So, handheld. So, nominees are Disney's Aladdin, but there's a flub. They show footage from the non-portable SNES version. Somebody in editing was asleep at the wheel. Oh boy. Then we get Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. And for some reason, again, William Shatner, he's saying his dialogue and he says, the world's greatest plumber is up to his old tricks again. And look for gold. I'm like, that's not Mario. It's Wario. You're confusing an audience here. So whoever gave you that script did not pay attention to the plot. Then Home Alone. Popular at the time. I'll give it that. Game Boy's Donkey Kong. Not bad. And The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Oh, yes. And I thought when I first watched this, not way back when, but I just came across it a couple years back. I had nothing else to do, and I came across it by sheer luck. And I thought, Link's Awakening is going to win. They have to give it to Link's Awakening, at the very least. No, they give it to Disney's Aladdin, which is fine. And I'm pretty sure Disney paid TBS some money to win those awards. So then we go to a live video at a New Jersey arcade with the one and only Will Arnett. Yes, Batman himself. Lego Batman, that is. Will Arnett, this segment's of all the live arcade segments, this one's the best one. Plus, it's Will Arnett. How can you go wrong? Right? Then we get Best Comedy Award, and it's presented by Charles Fleischer, best known as the voice of Roger Rabbit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He tells a few jokes. Okay, best comedy game. Get a comedian to tell a few jokes. I get it. Same time, let's move on. So the nominees are I'm Your Man, That's News to Me with Dennis Leary, The Wacky World of Miniature Golf, Bugs Bunny's Rabbit Rampage, and Dating and Mating. Some of these games I've heard of, some of them I never heard of. But you can tell when they had to give out an award, they probably just threw darts at the board and just said, that works. Just put them in there. It just seems like an odd cluster of comedy games, But the Wacky World of Miniature Golf wins. And a dear friend of mine, actually, when I showed him this a couple months ago, actually, he said, "Oh, I'm glad they won." I said, "Why? You played that game?" "Oh, I love playing that game." Go figure. Who knew I would tap into my friend's nostalgic brain? you know? So that was a highlight for him, for sure. Deserving? I think so. Ad break comes up. We get the Double Dragon movie TV spot. And boy, have we come a long way with video game movies. Still hit or miss, but we've come a long way since then. I mean, before that, we had the Super Mario Brothers movie. We're getting a better movie this year. Despite what people say, we are getting a better movie. I went through the 93 movie. I'm glad for the CGI movie. We get a Cartoon Network promo. Fine. TBS owns it, or owned, because now it's being dissolved. We get the Panasonic 3DO game system. Second video game based ad we get, but it's for a system that none of the people played on. We get Gerber Life, which is a well-known baby food. I mean, they're promoting a certain line called, I think it's Gerber, but I know it's Gerber Life. It's Gerber Life products, despite what they're saying it is. That came out of left field. But I get what they're doing there, in case young kids are watching, parents will be watching and go, I want to make sure my kid eats healthy. And then we get, which I think is out of left field, but maybe they were put up the money for it. We get an NBC promo for their upcoming but short-lived show, Earth 2. And if I can find episodes or whatever in my spare time, I will talk about it, because I just had a chunk of content that I was going to do. The channel decided to go inactive. So this is a good compromise. And then after that, we come back. Leslie Nielsen does another PSA about computer entertainment while two midgets play around with juggling balls and spin plates on sticks. They give Leslie Nielsen one of the spin plates with the sticks, and then it falls. Moving on. Peter Max, which I think that's his name. If it's wrong, I apologize. But Peter Max comes out. He's the creator of the show. He's the guy in charge. He reads a telegram from Al Gore and then talks about digital art. And it's a very good speech, honestly. And then he goes on to present the award for best art and graphics. Now, this is where I believe they were really throwing darts in the board. Because, first of all, the nominees are, we get Myst, good choice. Toonland, not a bad choice either. But we get Ocean Life 2 and 3, Space, Visual History, and Macworld Interactive Volume 1 and 2. You start off strong, and then you throw in encyclopedias. Okay. Really, it does look like they were throwing darts, but again, growing pains. Myst wins, and deserving. Myst is a wonderful visual feast for the eyes, if you look at it that way. Is it a complex and sometimes frustrating puzzle game? Yes, it is. But graphically, even today, you look at it, it's good. We then get a special achievement award in virtual reality presented by Devin Odessa, who was best known on a teen show called My So-Called Life. It didn't last long. It actually left with a cliffhanger. And actually, Jared Leto was also on that show. But yeah, she was a looker back then. She was. So the award is given to iWorks Entertainment, and good for them. The segment is very interesting. What they managed to accomplish. I don't know if they're still around. They're deserving of that award for what they've accomplished. We then get another backstage treasure for the Prodigy Network with our good pal Jeff. You know, do you remember Jeff? Yeah. Not Jeff Keighley. Jeff Leibowitz. But there's Mike Trouble throughout. You can barely hear him. Shame. There's a lot of flubs with production, and there's a big one coming up. But then we get our ad break. Again, Thursday night TBS basketball, IBM. We again get the Pitfall commercial. We get the Fuji camera film commercial. We get the Fisher Price one. We get the Casio G-Shock. And the Speed VHS that gets you a $5 rebate. So at this time, I think they're just like, we've got nothing else we can think of in this hour, so we'll just put familiar there. So then when we come back, we cut to the show. We cut to a live video at a Coney Island arcade with Andy Carbalis, female. When asked who's gonna win, one kid says, "Me! Me!" And he's wearing a Jesus Freak shirt. So he stands out. Plus, we get a Ren and Stimpy game tip. Yay. I don't hate Ren and Stimpy, but they were giving a tip for a game that I don't think a lot of people played, I'm sure. And then we get our fourth, believe it or not, Cyber Stories segment, and it's on hackers. It's very dated, though. That's all I'm going to say. It's very dated. And, it wasn't helped within the same decade we got the movie Hackers. That created hacker culture I think anyone who hacks would look at this and look at the movie Hackers and go, that's not how I am. Some people did embrace it, but really, it's not who I am. So then after that, we get Herbie Hancock. He plays a song exclusive for the event called Cyber Generation, and it features dancers, a female rapper, and early 90s video effects. And one of the dancers is very flexible. I always get bored with this segment. The song just goes on. It doesn't sound anything exciting. But then, after the song's over, Herbie Hancock presents the segment for Aerosmith. And the bassist, Todd Hamilton, he's very excited about the first yearly interactive video game award show. But guess what? In hindsight, this does not happen. Boy, they had high hopes. But I don't think the ratings were there, and I don't think advertisers got what they wanted, so never happened again. And then Herbie Hancock and Thomas Dolby, the guy who did Blinded Me with Science, they present the award for Best Music. Now, when I saw this before, I've seen it tons and tons of times over, I thought, Best Music, okay, they're going to talk about composers. There were composers who should get recognition and nomination. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Best Music, okay. Gonna give something to someone in Nintendo, someone in Sega, someone in, whatever. No, I'm wrong. No. Because the nominees are Explora, Peter Gabriel, Video Jam, Prince Interactive, Freak Show The Residents, and Uptown Blues. So basically just games where music plays a part. I was very disappointed, and I did not care who won. I mean, Explorer Peter Gabriel wins, but to me, there should have been more emphasis on like composers within video gaming. Music games where music plays a part, that's a whole different genre. And when Guitar Hero decades later and Rock Band and all that, they were put in their own category, best rhythm-based game. When it comes to music, it's about the composers. But again, this is telling. This is growing pains. So, interesting. But then we get a backstage end of the updates of the mayor versus the world's smartest kid. And then David Odessa causes our good pal Jeff Leibowitz, his voice to crack. Hey, my voice would be cracking too. She was a looker. So then we get our ad break. And we get some fresh and some familiar. We get the McDonald's ad where these two guys, and this was a great campaign. These two guys, it's about a $2 deal, and they keep riffing each other about being, it had something to do too, like Mr. 2 point something, Mr. 2 converter, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, it's pretty entertaining. We get a In Search of Dr. Seuss TNT special. Fine. Double Dragon TV spot again. Go get your tickets. Soft and dry, clear gel, female underarm deodorant. Scoop away. Cat litter. And then we get Troy Aikman NFL football video game, which is practically our third video game ad. And this leads us back into our show. And Leslie Nielsen presents Price Waterhouse individuals who are in charge of the voting process for the award show and any award show going forward. They check his ticket stub, and then Leslie asks if they validate parking. Pretty funny. I'll give him that. Carol Ann Plantain and Renee Aujanbois present the award for Best Simulation Strategy Game. Carol Ann Plantain is up for award later, and Renee Aujanbois is from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. So the nominees are SimCity Enhanced CD-ROM, Dune 2, Microsoft's Flight Simulator 5, Castle 2 Siege and Conquest, and Forever Growing Garden. Could have done without Forever Growing Garden, because it was all good to this point. This is where they got the nominees right. Almost. But SimCity Enhanced CD-ROM wins, and Carol almost calls it SimCity Enchanted. But I won't falter. She's a beautiful woman. Shelley Duvall comes out. You remember her from The Shining. She does have a hat on with flowers. I'm not a fashion faux pas person, but once you see it, you'll be going, huh? But she comes out to introduce our fifth cyber story segment, which is on education with technology. Very informative, very interesting. She then gives out rewards to 2 kids who developed educational games. And then she's also still there. Ruff's Bone and Addiction and its Processes get awards for special achievement in education. So a whole segment dedicated to education, which is fine. Technology has influenced young minds to create new stuff, for better or for worse. But still, it wasn't a bad idea. We then get a backstage statement updating the Game of the Year nominees, like who's in the lead, who's behind. Get in there, call the numbers. So then we cut to our ad break. Again, TBS Thursday Night Football. And they mentioned the Magic and the Knicks as the game. No, I did not look up what the score is. Don't ask. Maybe someday in the future I'll review this game. We're going to get Panasonic Real 3DO system again, IBM again, Troy Aikman's NFL football again, Double Dragon TV spot again. Let's just show what's familiar and what we think is going to get people going. By the way, the reason why they're playing Double Dragon a lot is because the game pieces that have prizes are attached to Double Dragon. And at this time when the movie was coming out, there was also that cartoon show. It all makes sense now, doesn't it? So then, we come back. We get our 6th Cyber Stories segment, and it's on video game creation, but mainly FMV games. It feels a little cheated, because they're talking about game creation, and you're thinking, okay, you're going to talk about how games really are made, but their focus is really on FMV games, which was just a trend in the early 90s. And by this time, it died out. So, yeah. I mean, thing is, when a trend happens, people who are in charge and people who are influenced by it think it's going to last forever. And when it doesn't, it fades away. Then we get Best Sports Game, and it's presented by Marla Gibbs, who's best known for Moving On Up to the East Side with George Jefferson, and the Barbarian Brothers, who had a movie coming out called The Babysitters. And those two guys were interesting. They're pretty funny. One of them ended up having mental health issues, and unfortunately he passed away quite a few years ago. I believe the other brother is still alive, and if not, he is deceased. So RIP to both of them. But as they're presenting the award, there's a flub. Someone in production forgets to cut to the video of the nominees, and these guys have to stall. It's just, boy. Okay, so this one is pretty interesting. This stays on cue. This stays on point. So the nominees are NBA Jam, FIFA Soccer, NHL 94, Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball, Caesar's World of Boxing, Sports Illustrated 94, Multimedia Almanac, QB1, and Great Day at the Races. Does stay on point. Most part, I should say. Loses steam. Yes. My cat agrees. As you can tell. Now, who do you think wins this one? Perhaps NBA Jam. They can at least take it home if they don't win Game of the Year, which they are up for. Maybe NHL 94 should take it home. FIFA Soccer? Yeah, deserving too. Ken Griffey's Major League Baseball? Sure. No. Caesar's World of Boxing. A game probably no one ever played. And I remember showing this to a friend of mine years ago. He was pissed off. He literally was like, NHL 94 should have won. I said to him, what about NBA Jam? Oh, that's a good game, but that's bullshit that NHL 94 didn't win. Looking in hindsight, I think the first 4 would have been better. But yeah, Caesar's Boxing won. Then, after this, we have a segment featuring Flying Brian Pillman and Lord Steve Regal from WCW playing WCW Super Brawl, while Leslie Nielsen talks about violence in video games. This leads to Regal and Pete and Pillman fighting, and then the 2 midgets get involved till Leslie Nielsen pulls out a gun and shoots it in the air. And actually, I tried to find the clip of Botchmania where they picked up the segment in his book, William Regal's book, where he talks about this and his experience. I couldn't find it, but it wasn't enjoyable. But it was a highlight for me. So then, After this, we get the Best Female Actor Award, and it's presented by Robert Culp and Terry Austin. Robert Culp is a late, well-known actor for working in the show I Spy with Bill Cosby. And Terry Austin, she was on the Models Inc. show, which was a spin-off of Melrose Place, which in turn was a spin-off of Beverly Hills 90210. Robert Culp, actually, he flubs a line. And I'm not quoting it exactly, but he says, since its introduction, or as he says, introduction in the 50s, television created a brand new monster industry. But as flubby as it is, television did become a monster in more ways than one. So the nominees are Grace Zabriskie for Voyeur, Eileen Weisinger for Critical Path, Tanya Kaiser for Man Enough, Virginia Caper for Gabriel Knight. So this is actresses in real, like full motion video. They went by the trend. Grace Zabriskie wins for Voyeur, and she has a very short acceptance speech. Actually, a lot of people who won had pretty short acceptance speeches. Some of them had longer ones, but some people just said what they had to say and left. So then we cut to an ad break. We get Fuji Camera Film, the Fisher-Price toy again. We get the Lion King video game, which is I believe our fourth video game ad. We get the Casio watch and the $5 VHS rebate for Speed. We get Gerber Life again, and TBS Thursday Basketball. Don't you forget it. And then Dave Thomas. And then we come back. We get Dave Thomas and Jenna Von Noy present the award for Best Actor Male. Jenna Von Noy is from Blossom. Dave Thomas is a comedian who I can't remember what he's from. I've seen him before. So the nominees are Robert Culp for Voyeur, Leonard Nimoy for Star Trek 25th Anniversary, Tim Curry for Gabriel Knight, Christian Eckerson for Mega Race, and Mickey Rooney for A Great Day at the Races. Okay. Hodgepodge of people, some deserving more than others, but it is what it is. And Robert Culp for Voyeur wins, but he gives a very long acceptance speech. I mean, I get where he's coming from, what he's talking about, but I don't doubt that anybody who watched it back then, or when I watched it and came across it, was going, come on. So, no disrespect to the man, but as he's going on, it does feel a little long. We then get the results of the Mayor of California versus the World's Smartest Kid, and the kid won! The kid got to run California for a day. And then after that, we get our other ad break. We get told about our Game Piece prizes segment. Get them ready, because this is what you win. And then we get the $2 guys again for McDonald's. We get our final video game ad for Super Return of the Jedi. Ads, I should say, because that's followed by Indiana Jones' Greatest Adventures, both for SNES. And then that TBS Thursday B-Ball. We get the Fisher-Price toy and the Troy Aikman NFL football video game. And before we cut back, hello, we get told after the award show, tune in, Masters of the Universe, the live-action movie showing. Okay. I know it's a cult classic to some, but it's so bad. It's bad. And then, to close it all off, Leslie Nielsen and Jonathan Taylor Thomas present the award for Game of the Year. Your nominees are Doom, Mortal Kombat, Myst, NBA Jam, and Super Street Fighter 2. That is hands down the best collection of nominees on the show. Mortal Kombat wins. They give their The makers of the game give their awards speech, leave, and then the show ends, ladies and gentlemen, with Leslie Nielsen saying, "I can't wait to get home, grab a hold of my joystick, and boot up the hard drive." Oh, God, that's hilarious. So that show ends. Yeah, so for me, this show is a guilty pleasure. I'm not going to lie. Not going to sit here and lie to you and say that's not. But it's also obvious that from this, it was a learning experience. And again, never got another Video Game Award show until Spike started doing it. And we still had to go through growing pains with that. So that was that. But tell me what you think in the comments below after you watch the show. Tell me what you think. And then next week, I'm going to go all the way back and talk about the pilot episode of James Bond Jr. And there will be new techniques coming up for my show. No upgrades yet, but new techniques to get familiar with. So, enjoy. Look forward to it. And we'll see you soon. Bye. Take care for now.